When we move on to the CAP-specific focus, I'm just going to stand still for one moment as there's a very important message to remember. Always remember, if you write your lesson plan, it must be in the third person writing style. It must be academic writing style. You can't write, I am going to do that. You must write, the teacher will do the following, or the children will follow the teacher by doing blah 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 blah. So please make sure that you use third person writing style and not first person writing style. Moving on to your CAP specific focus, you must select the CAP specific outcomes from the CAP document. If you choose to work, for example, with term 3, you must take all your CAP specific outcomes from term 3. The CAP specific outcomes is the content that you must teach and assess during the term. You cannot take only one CAP specific outcome per lesson. You must have at least 2 or more, but all of them must be from the same term, in our case, term 3. Remember, you can have CAP specific outcomes for your introduction part, your teaching and learning part, as well as your conclusion part. Remember, counting activities must form part of each mathematics lesson, and therefore you must include counting activities as part of your CAP specific outcomes as well. You may copy and paste from your online CAPS document, but you must make sure that you reference correctly with the page number included as well. And for our lesson, let's say for explanation purposes, we choose to work with position, orientation, and view, with space and shape, term 3, and then it says the position of 2 or more objects in relation to each other and to one another, in front of and behind, on top, under, bottom, and below, next to, middle, left and right, pegboard work, and they must describe objects from different perspectives, for example, a door, house, from the front, the back, the side, depending on where you stand. They must also have counting activities included. So I must page to my counting, and I would say in term 3 the number range is 1 to 7, and then I will copy and paste from page 41 in my CAPS document, incidentally counting using number round songs, counters, 3D objects, counting with body movement and number ladder, counting 1, the number range is number symbols 5 to 7, number names 5, 6, and 7, so I can take from there my counting activities. Remember that you have to reference correctly, and please add the page numbers. If you want to be smart, you would have CAP specific outcomes for your introduction part, just under a heading introduction, and then your specific CAP outcomes for the introduction part, the teaching and learning, and then your closure part as well. But remember, it must be in our case from term 3 because our lesson is term 3. Activity objectives and lesson objectives are quite the same thing. It's what do you want your children to achieve? By the end of the lesson, they must be able to do certain things. And your activity objectives and your CAP specific outcomes are very closely correlated. Because we're working with space and shape, term 3, our lesson objectives would be the following. Remember, we can have lesson objectives for your introduction part, for your teaching and learning part, and your closure part. Your activity objectives could be by the end of the lesson, because we must write it from the perspective of the child, and there must be a measurable verb in each sentence. So by the end of the lesson, the children will be able to. And now I can bullet it. I can actually separate it under headings introduction, teaching and learning, and closure part as well. By the end of the lesson, the children will be able to work in groups. By the end of the lesson, the children will be able to count up to 7. By the end of the lesson, the children will be able to describe objects in relation to or on top, under, bottom, and below. By the end of the lesson, the children will be able to work with pegboard. By the end of the lesson, the children will be able to distinguish between left and right. Close correlation between your CAPS document and your activity objectives. Remember, there must be a measurable verb present. Remember, it must be from the perspective of the child. It's always a good idea to start with a sentence. By the end of the activity or lesson, the children will be able to, and then you bullet the rest, all your objectives, you can bullet down underneath. Specific considerations. It's a very wide concept that we have to discuss, and that will be based on where you end up teaching. Each school and each suburb and each environment's got different considerations that you have to take into account, but there are quite a few considerations that is applicable for all of the learners. Things that you have to take into account, things that you must keep in the back of your head when planning your lesson. Will there be enough equipment for all the children to work with? Will the children be able to handle the equipment safely? Will the children understand exactly what the teacher means? Will there be children that has a language barrier problem because the teacher language of learning and teaching is not their home language? Will the children be able to see the instructions clearly and to hear the instructions clearly? Are there enough space in the class for all the activities to take place? All the things that you have to take in consideration. Obviously, if you're teaching at a lower resource school, you will add things like, did the children eat properly this morning so that they can concentrate better in class? Are there children from foreign countries that don't understand the language that you have to get somebody to translate it for? So it's all of those things that you have to take into account that when you plan your lesson. Obviously, you can't write down everything, but give yourself ample considerations and write it down so that you can see, we as the lecturers can see that you've got a idea of what you're dealing with and that you understand the concept that there could be a wide variety of consequences and ideas and things that might happen in your class and that you thought of when you was designing and writing your lesson plan.